We have just finished a Senate inquiry into the primary lending production from the agricultural, forestry and the fisheries. Prior to my being elected to this parliament, or not prior to my being actually sworn into this parliament, on my first meeting with the Prime Minister, I stated there had to be a Royal Commission into the banking sector. One Nation has always pushed for that, and on the back of it, hearing last week there would be a Royal Commission into the banking sector, it is very much welcomed. In setting up this, I knew that the Prime Minister was totally against a Royal Commission into the banking sector, that we then asked for a Senate inquiry. We fought for it, we got it. For 6 months now, One Nation chaired the Senate inquiry into the banking sector, and it was chaired by Senator Malcolm Roberts. It was finally chaired by myself and accompanied by my other senators. At that Senate inquiry, we heard the cases of many Australian farming families. These are the faces of those farming families. These are the Australian families that have been devastated by the banking sector. They have been ignored, they've been just used as political objects by the major political parties who have not listened to their concerns, disregarded it, and they've been used as political footballs. And I will say that, yes, political footballs. Lives have been lost, families destroyed, and not only that, the farming sector has suffered because of it. I've listened in these inquiries, and so has the other senators, to their heartfelt stories. And that has been completely ignored. What we need to do is the report that's been handed down today in the Parliament is going to strongly express recommendations that must be carried through to the Royal Commission. These are going to be answers for the people that have been ignored. We have to find the answers to it. We cannot see any more people taking their lives. We can't see families turned off their farms, their properties, their livelihoods. The passion that I saw in their faces, it's been devastating. And I'm so proud to actually this afternoon hand down these recommendations. But I hope this is not just another recommendation from a Senate inquiry that's just thrown into the corner by the other political parties, because I can assure you I will not let up and I will not stop until something is done about this. This is not going to be just another waste of time and money. Enough is enough. I feel for these people, and they are so pleased with that it is now coming to the end of it for them with this inquiry and the recommendations that are handed down. So I'd like to, if you want to ask any questions with regards to it.
Senator Hanson, can you give us a flavour of some of the recommendations that have come out of this inquiry?
Because the report hasn't been tabled on the floor of Parliament, I can't, but I can actually say it is going to be very strong in its recommendations. We are actually now going in areas where it is going to look after the families themselves. They're going to have more of a backup and more of a say. I think that where they've actually had no say with regards to the liquidators and the managers, they are going to have more of a voice in that area. There is definitely the recommendation that goes to the Royal Commission, that's what I can say. And I think overall it's really sort of starting to make the banks accountable right across, with these recommendations. I'd also like to take the opportunity to thank Senator Wacker-Williams. He's been excellent in this inquiry. He's been very instrumental in his assistance. And I believe that, giving credit where credit's due, I also do believe that One Nation headed this inquiry, and I also do believe that the support that One Nation has gathered around the nation is a clear indication that the Nationals have had to get up and push for this Royal Commission, that we've actually put pressure on them, that the people are now supporting One Nation, and they're starting to realise they have to start working for the people of this country.
Senator, have you spoken to the Treasurer about the terms of reference for the Banking Royal Commission?
No, I haven't. I haven't had an opportunity to actually speak to him about it.
Will you be taking that up as a chance?
Most definitely, we will be, because I think there's very important things that would need to be included into the Royal Commission. Let me also add that AFCA is actually being debated on the floor of Parliament at the moment. Now that's a committee into the complaints, and in that AFCA, what we have recommended is that, and it's been approved by the Minister, that complaints up to $5 million will be heard by AFCA with a compensation payout up to $2 million. One Nation has actually accomplished to have that doubled. So we're very proud to actually have achieved that with AFCA. So a better outcome again for these families.
In terms of the terms of reference for the Royal Commission, what specifically else would you like to see in there?
Well, there's quite a few terms of reference, and I can say, you know, it's here. I can't, it's confidential, but there is quite a few terms of reference that are in the recommendations, and so it's, like I said, it's going to be, there's about 29 recommendations. So it's going to be very beneficial. As I said, I think the banks have been allowed to get away with too much. The people feel they've had no recourse, they've had nowhere to go. I think this is going to bring some balance to it, to give the people their opportunity to have their say. And we've got to stop farming families by just being thrown off their properties, by receivers coming in and just throwing them off their properties and taking over their properties. That has to stop. So I just want to say, if anyone here would like to say anything.
And Andy McLaughlin's going to say.
Oh, yeah.
Go behind the mic.
I was very reluctant initially to get involved in this inquiry until such time as I met Senator Roberts and Senator Giorgio and Senator Williams, who I've known for a number of years. I was proud to see that Pauline had come on board when Mr Roberts lost his position in the Senate. I don't think you media don't understand the impact and the scars that are there that will never heal. I don't believe that any bank or any receiver or any agent or solicitor can compensate people who have lost their families or their welfare or their income. And we're talking about farming generations going back 120, 150 years, third, fourth, fifth generations. And you're the sole farmer left after your father and his father before them. And you're the one who you believe did the wrong thing and lost that farm. You tell me how anybody can live with that. The devastation out there, I thought I'd seen everything in 25 years of doing this job as a consultant mediator, and I was never so shattered to see the lives all the way through Roma, Charters Towers, Townsville, the whole box and dice, all the way down to New South Wales. There's no consideration in regards to these people who have no control over seasonal factors. And until the government makes rulings to stop these banks and hold them accountable, there's certain banks making every effort to give some consideration into what's occurred. They've acknowledged that wrongdoing has been done internally within the bank, and they're trying to offset that and make sure that proper practices are carried forward. But if they don't stop now, if these receivers are continuing to be appointed without notice, and that's what happens, there's no time given, the receivers turn up, they call the creditors, the bank accounts are shut down, and before you know it, the farmer's devastated. Not only has he lost the respect of his family, he's lost the respect of his community. Now, if you can't tell me that doesn't contribute to people taking their own lives, then what does? So I am very, very supportive. I'm very proud to be associated with Senator Giorgio and Senator Hanson and certainly Malcolm Roberts. I hope he comes back into the Senate because he's certainly the strength in a lot of cases with One Nation, and the senators have acknowledged that. Senator Williams as well, his efforts in regards to protecting farmers all the way through has just been incredible. But if we don't, I believe in the Royal Commission to a certain degree, but I would request that we do get a tribunal now. We need a tribunal that if people have got complaints, or there's a receiver being appointed, or a bank is foreclosing, that they can make a complaint and stop that process. Give them an opportunity to get a fair hearing and hopefully get fair compensation. But it must stop now. Thank you.
Any questions for Andy?
Are we able to hear some of the personal stories of farmers here today?
Look, there's a lot of hurt out there and a lot of people who are too scared to come forward. That's personal, and they really don't want to air that again. They're trying to recover from that hurt. If you take them one-on-one, and I've had a lot of experience in regards to sitting down and trying to delicately handle those discussions and see what we can do to reconstruct their businesses. So there's a lot of success stories out there over the years where we've been able to lose everything, sit down and look at options going forward. It's not necessarily borrowing money or creating a mortgage. It gives them an opportunity to get back into the farming sector through leasing or whatever the case may be, where they have no debt, and then eventually when they're in a financial position to be able to purchase those properties. When you see the other thing in regards to the welfare of stock, and it's a very serious issue that the media has not addressed or anybody has addressed, that if a bank has a cross-collateralised security and it comes into the stock and the farmer can't afford to feed those stock through flood or drought or whatever the case may be, then the bank should be held accountable for the welfare of those cattle. And even if for a short time where they subsidise the feed and allow those cattle to go to market so they've got a return so that farmer can then reduce his debt. Not allow the cattle to die, to be shot in humane conditions. And a lot of people say shooting cattle and sheep and whatever you've got is cruel. It's not. It's humane. You can't allow them to die and starve where there's no water around or there's no access to feed or whatever the case may be. The farmers are left with no option. They don't want to do it, but they won't allow their kids and their families to see stock dying. The banks must be held accountable. If the RSPCA can fine a farmer for animal cruelty, then those banks should be held accountable in regards to the fact that they didn't supplement any feed to those cattle that could have saved them and generated an income to reduce the debt or service the debt at that time.
Can I just say that my office has worked with the banking sector. We've actually been able to save 5 farming families from actually being thrown off their properties. We've had a turnaround of $3.2 million plus a payout of another $500,000. So we've been able to stop that. We've actually negotiating with another 10 farming families with the banking sector, so I'm very pleased with that. And we've actually had a request now where my office will be going to North Queensland next week to actually talk to about another 60 families, talking to them who are struggling. They haven't had a voice. No one has really taken the time to listen to them or work with them and try and help them. And that's why they're very appreciative of One Nation. Since we've been in this parliament, we've actually been able to give them hope and to help them very much so. And as I said, with this inquiry that's come out now, the Senate inquiry that we've actually chaired and we brought about, One Nation did, I think that is the precursor to the Royal Commission. I think that our push for this has been instrumental in this Royal Commissioning happening, because I don't believe that if One Nation wasn't here, if it would have ever got up.